Hey everyone, and welcome right into The Explainer. I am so glad you're here today because we are tackling something literally all of us deal with. Today, we're diving into the top 5 financial mistakes and their solutions, packed with visuals, stories, and engaging content, and as always, with subtitles so you can follow along easily. We've dug deep into the research from top behavioral economists and financial advisors to figure out exactly why we struggle so much with money, and more importantly, how to fix it. So grab a notepad, get focused, and let's decode the psychology of wealth together.
So I want you to think about this for a second. Why do generally smart people make really bad money choices? It's kind of a fascinating paradox, isn't it? You see highly educated, super successful folks completely drowning in credit card debt, or maybe they don't have a dime saved for an emergency, or they're making just terrible investment moves. If you've ever checked your bank app and just felt this sinking wave of regret, well, trust me, you are definitely not alone. It's incredibly common. But the kicker? The root cause of this usually has absolutely nothing to do with how smart you are. The legendary investor Benjamin Graham actually hit the nail right on the head with this. He said, the investor's chief problem, even his worst enemy, is likely to be himself. And wow, is that true? Our biggest hurdles when it comes to building wealth, they aren't usually market crashes or inflation or big economic shifts. It's us. It's our own human nature. We're basically fighting a constant, everyday battle against the way our own brains are wired. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it takes us straight into the world of behavioral economics. The psychology of spending shows us that our financial choices are heavily driven by these deeply ingrained emotional and cognitive biases. I mean, everything from our daily lifestyle choices to those highly targeted ads we scroll past on our phones, they all play on these biases and nudge us toward, frankly, irrational financial decisions. So, to fix our finances, we essentially have to learn how to outsmart our own brains. Okay, so here is our roadmap for today. We're going to count down these top 5 psychological money mistakes. Number 1, flying blind. 2, the debt trap. 3, emotional investing. 4, ignoring the unexpected. And finally, number 5, delaying your future. And for every single trap, you're going to get an actionable solution. Let's get into it. Let's kick things off with mistake number 1, flying blind. Look, the single biggest reason people of all ages and honestly all income brackets get into money trouble is just failing to live within their means. And that usually stems from living without a budget. Trying to manage your money without a budget is literally like driving down the highway with your eyes completely closed. You might feel like you're cruising along just fine, but a crash, it's absolutely inevitable. Experts tell us time and time again, if what goes out is constantly more than what comes in, you end up relying on credit, and that starts a really vicious, dangerous cycle. But why do we fight budgeting so much? Well, I found this fascinating. It largely comes down to something called optimism bias. We naturally have this rosy view of the future, right? We just assume we're going to get that big promotion, our income will go up, and everything will magically work itself out. But at the exact same time, we completely ignore these slow, creeping threats like inflation, which is silently eating away at our purchasing power year after year. Optimism bias tricks us into thinking, hey, I don't need a budget today because tomorrow I'm magically going to be wealthier. So how do we hack our way past this bias? The answer is structure, specifically the 50-30-20 rule. It's an absolutely brilliant, simple framework. Here's how it works. You allocate 50% of your income to absolute needs, things like rent and groceries. Then 30% goes to your wants, dining out, your gym membership. And a strict, non-negotiable 20% goes straight to savings and investing. By setting this up to happen automatically the second your paycheck hits, you completely bypass optimism bias. You're basically automating your financial discipline. Moving right along to mistake number 2, the debt trap. Now, one of the biggest financial regrets across the board is taking on loans to fund a lifestyle rather than using them for growth. I'm talking about putting that luxury vacation, or the newest smartphone, or even a lavish wedding on a high-interest credit card or a personal loan. Think about it. These are depreciating assets. They lose their value the literal second you buy them, but you end up paying interest on them for years. And the sneaky behavioral culprit behind this one, it's called hyperbolic discounting. It sounds super academic, but it really just means our brains are desperately wired for immediate gratification. If you give the human brain a choice between, say, a shiny new phone right this very second or a plush, comfortable retirement 30 years down the line, our brain just screams for the phone. This bias makes that instant, painless swipe of a credit card so incredibly tempting, and it totally blinds us to the long-term agony of compound interest. And this brilliantly illustrates the solution. You have to learn to distinguish between good debt and bad debt. Good debt actually helps you build wealth over time. It's an investment, like education, a mortgage on real estate, or funding to start a business. Bad debt, on the other hand, just drains your wealth. It's those high-interest credit cards you use to buy vacations, clothes, and gadgets. To fix this mistake, you've got to critically look at every single borrowed dollar and ask yourself, is this debt actually going to pay me back in the future?
All right, let's talk about mistake number 3, emotional investing.
So once you actually start saving and investing, there is a massive trap that almost all of us fall into at some point, and that is trying to outsmart or beat the market. We hear a hot stock tip, or we try to chase whatever tech stocks skyrocketed last year. What happens? We end up buying high when everyone is super hyped up, and then we panic and sell low when the market inevitably takes a dip. All that frequent trading and trying to perfectly time the market, it racks up huge transaction costs and almost always wrecks your long-term returns. Honestly, it's a fool's errand.
Why do we keep doing it then? 2 words: loss aversion. Behavioral economists have proven time and time again that the psychological sting of losing money hurts us way, way more than the joy we feel from gaining that exact same amount. So when the market takes a dive, loss aversion kicks in and triggers sheer panic. It makes us sell our investments at the absolute bottom just to make the emotional pain stop. Or, ironically, it makes us stubbornly hold on to terrible sinking investments because selling them would mean officially admitting defeat. To protect your hard-earned money from your own emotions, you need what I like to call the ultimate financial shock absorber: true diversification. And guys, this doesn't just mean owning shares in 2 different tech companies. True diversification means spreading your risk across entirely different asset classes, like stocks, bonds, and real estate. It means investing globally, not just domestically, across different industries and company sizes. That way, when one area of the market takes a hit, another one might be thriving. It smooths out the whole ride and keeps that nasty loss aversion right in check. That brings us to mistake number 4, ignoring the unexpected. You know, it is genuinely astonishing how many people out there are operating without a rainy day fund. Life is gonna throw curveballs: a sudden car breakdown, a medical emergency, or losing a job out of nowhere. If your budget is stretched tight and you have 0 cash sitting in reserve, one single bad break can instantly derail years of careful financial planning. And guess what? It forces you right back into that terrible credit card debt trap we talked about earlier. Now, the reason we don't prep for disasters is something called availability bias. This is our habit of judging how likely something is to happen based on how easily we can remember an example of it. Because most of us don't experience a severe job loss or a need for long-term care every single day, our brains basically assume the risk is 0. We completely fail to plan for these rare events just because they aren't staring us in the face every morning. So what's the fix? You have to actively work to protect your downside. You do this by systematically putting away a fixed amount, even if it's just $10 to $100 a month to start, until you have a solid emergency fund that covers 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. It also means looking ahead to plan for healthcare costs and retirement, and being brutally honest about your true risk tolerance before an emergency actually strikes. You absolutely need cash liquidity to weather the storms that life will definitely throw at you. And finally, we arrive at mistake number 5, delaying your future. I really wish I had started investing sooner. Ask almost anyone, and I guarantee you this is their biggest financial regret. Starting late completely robs you of the magic of compound interest. And even worse than starting late, ignoring an employer match on your 401k. If your company offers a match and you aren't taking full advantage of it, you are literally leaving free money on the table. Honestly, it is the exact equivalent of marching into your boss's office, looking them right in the eye, and turning down a pay raise. No way you do that, right? Let me put some numbers to this, because the math is just staggering. Time is your absolute greatest asset. If you start at age 25 and set aside just $100 a week, assuming a standard 5% return, you are going to have nearly $700,000 by the time you're 65, almost $750,000. But if you delay your future and you wait until you're 40 to start, you'd have to scrape together a massive $1,100 every single month just to catch up to that exact same amount. Time is a wasting asset, my friends. Once it slips away, you can never get it back. Which leaves us with this final, pretty provocative thought. We've just seen exactly how our own psychology works against us, from optimism bias tricking us out of budgeting to hyperbolic discounting pushing us into bad debt. But the great news? Now you've got the structured tools to fight back. So, what is one financial action you are going to take today to course correct your future? Are you going to finally set up that automated 50-30-20 budget? Are you going to put the first $50 into an emergency fund? Whatever it is, don't wait for tomorrow. Take action today. Outsmart your own biases and take complete control of your financial destiny. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on The Explainer, and I will see you next time.